He looked me dead in the eye and asked me to be his sugar mommy. 2 weeks earlier, this man had told me I was the most genuine woman he'd ever met. 48 hours after I exposed him, immigration officers were standing on his doorstep. His wife found out, his employer got raided, and every single person who ever loved him got a message they'll never forget. This is the story of how one lie destroyed a man's entire life, and honestly, he built the bomb himself. If you've ever been lied to by someone who thought you were too naive, too trusting, or too nice to fight back, this story is for you. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to feel something you don't get to feel very often. Real, earned, undeniable justice. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and let's get into it. Let's rewind. She's a woman in her 30s. A good job, corporate, the kind of career with real room to grow. She's stable, not rich, but comfortable enough to enjoy her life. She's got a warm, easy kind of confidence, the type that comes from being smart and self-sufficient. And after a divorce that took a decade to recover from, she was finally stepping back into the dating world. If you've ever re-entered dating after a long time away, you know that feeling. It's equal parts thrilling and terrifying. You've forgotten the rules. You're rusty at flirting. And you're desperately hoping the next person you let into your life isn't going to hurt you the way the last one did. She lives in a big, multicultural city, the kind of place where you can fall in love with someone from anywhere in the world. Her ex-husband had been an immigrant himself, so she'd never thought twice about dating outside her own background. To her, a good person was a good person, no matter where they were born. And then she matched with him. He was charming in a way that felt almost cinematic. Warm eyes, an easy laugh, the kind of intelligence that came through in the way he talked about his family back home. He was affectionate, genuinely affectionate, the kind of tactile, cuddly warmth some people starve for without even realizing it. He had a good career in his home country, a country somewhere in Latin America. He was educated. He talked about his family with real tenderness. The chemistry was instant, not just physical, although that part was, in her words, amazing but emotional too. Conversations that flowed for hours, the kind of connection that makes you forget to check your phone because you're too busy actually being present with someone. He was upfront about one thing. He was in the country on a tourist visa, and he was hoping to find a way to stay. She was upfront right back. She told him, clearly, plainly, I'm not going to help you with immigration. That's not something I can offer. If he found his own way to stay, or come back, then maybe down the road they could talk about something real. But for now, this was a summer fling. Fun, no pressure, no illusions. He said he understood. He said he respected that. For a few weeks, it was everything a summer romance is supposed to be. 4 dates in, and it felt like something worth paying attention to. And then, mid-conversation, completely out of nowhere, the mask slipped. They were texting, talking about her work, her career, the field she'd spent years building herself up in. And he asked her to be his sugar mommy. Read that again. Not, can you help me find a job? Not, do you know anyone hiring? He asked her, directly, plainly, to financially support him, to be his sugar mommy. At first, she laughed it off. Surely it was a joke. Surely a man who had held her face in his hands 2 nights before wasn't seriously asking her to bankroll his life in her country. But he wasn't laughing. He doubled down. He kept pushing. This wasn't a joke to him. This was an actual proposal, delivered with a straight face to a woman he had spent weeks convincing that he adored her. And here's where you have to sit with the emotional gut punch of this moment. Because it's not really about the money. It's about the realization. The cold drop in your stomach when you understand that every warm look, every soft touch, every "you're different from anyone I've ever met," all of it might have been a script. A calculated, rehearsed approach designed to land on exactly this ask. She went off on him, told him exactly how insulting, how humiliating, how pathetic it was for a grown man to ask a woman to pay for him like that. And instead of apologizing, instead of even pretending to be embarrassed, he got angry. He turned it around on her, insulting her right back, insisting she must have misunderstood, that he was clearly joking, that he didn't need to sell himself to anyone. No apology. No accountability, just rage that she dared to call him out. She sat there, phone in hand, chest tight, replaying every date in her head. Was any of it real? Was she just a mark? A target? A would be a 10 if she lost 30 pounds kind of woman he'd sized up as an easy score, pretty enough to be worth the effort, insecure enough to be grateful for the attention, comfortable enough financially to be useful. She did what any of us would do. She took screenshots. She called her friends. She cried. And that's when the fuse got lit. The investigation. Here's the thing about wronging a woman with resourceful friends. You have no idea what you just unleashed. One of her closest friends, furious on her behalf, started digging. Not idly, methodically, Instagram first. And what she found wasn't one account. It was six different profiles. All him, all slight variations of his name, all uploaded in suspicious photo batches like someone building a portfolio rather than living a life. Facebook told the same story. Multiple accounts, multiple identities. The digital footprint of someone who had done this before, someone who had built and rebuilt his image again and again for different targets, but he'd made one careless mistake. On one of those accounts, he tagged and followed the employer he was working for, illegally, while on a tourist visa. That single tag was the loose thread that unraveled everything. She had a close friend in local law enforcement, someone who worked adjacent to immigration enforcement. She reached out. Her friend pulled his file. And there it was, sitting in black and white, the detail that changed everything. He had a wife. He had a daughter. Back home, waiting for him, was a family who had no idea that the man they loved was overseas playing house with other women, and apparently asking them to fund his lifestyle while he did it. The reckoning begins. At this point, you have to understand something about the woman at the center of this story. She wasn't looking for a war. She'd been humiliated, lied to, and insulted by a man who thought she was too soft, too smitten, or too embarrassed to fight back. He was wrong. Her friend, the one who'd done the digging, didn't wait for permission. She built group chats, multiple platforms, every family member she could find, immediate and extended, every friend, every connection in his network. Screenshots went out. The sugar mommy request. The insults. A full, unflinching account of exactly the kind of man he'd shown himself to be. As people started blocking her, she found more people. She tracked down his sister's personal phone number and sent the messages there too. Message after message landing in inboxes his family never expected to open. His wife found out her husband was overseas, unfaithful, and financially hunting other women. His entire circle, the people whose respect he presumably still wanted, the family he still called warmly on video chats, now knew exactly who he was. 30 minutes after the messages started landing, he texted her. Not an apology, a complaint. He told her she should have known he was joking, that he didn't need to sell himself. She didn't reply. There was nothing left to say to a man whose own family was now finding out the truth in real time. But here's the thing about a man who lies for a living. Public humiliation alone wasn't enough. Because humiliation fades. Group chats get muted. People move on. She wanted something that would actually stick. So she sat down and did something far more dangerous to him than any angry message ever could. She filed an official report. Every detail she had. His full name, his date of birth, his home address, his employer's name and address. Screenshots of him effectively admitting, in writing, that he was working in the country illegally. Photos, everything, laid out clean and organized, handed straight to immigration authorities. Normally, a report like that disappears into a queue. Months of waiting, if it's ever reviewed at all. But she had one more card to play. She gave the file number directly to her friend in law enforcement. 2 days later, officers were standing on his doorstep. Picture it. A knock at the door he never saw coming. Officers, standing there with a file that had his name, his photo, his admissions, his entire digital trail laid bare. They found something else while they were there, too. His phone number, and every one of his roommates' phone numbers, were all registered to the same local resident. A direct, undeniable link straight back to the employer who'd been running the whole operation. He received a formal caution for attempting to scam her. A no-contact order, permanently barring him from reaching out to her again. And a flag placed on his immigration file, one that, given his country of origin, will very likely mean he can never legally set foot back in that country again. His roommates got warnings of their own. And then it was his employer's turn. Investigators arrived and found extensive evidence that the company had been illegally employing him and multiple others just like him. That investigation is still ongoing, but the company is now staring down the possibility of tens of thousands of dollars in fines. Possibly worse. He isn't being deported outright. Deportation costs the government money, and his visa is set to expire before the process would even finish. But make no mistake, what he has now is worse than deportation in some ways. A multi-year ban on ever returning, a permanent black mark on his file, and a very clear, very final warning: contact her again, even once, and deportation becomes the immediate next step. Somewhere right now he's sitting in the wreckage of a life he built out of lies, facing his wife, facing his daughter, facing a family that now knows exactly what kind of man he really is. No job, no visa future, no woman left to try this on, just consequences. Finally, fully, unavoidably, his own. Here's what gets me about this story. He wasn't caught because someone got lucky. He was caught because he underestimated her. He assumed that behind the warmth and the softness, there was nothing but naivety. Instead, he found a woman with sharp friends, real resources, and absolutely zero patience for being disrespected. Sometimes karma doesn't need the universe's help at all. Sometimes it just needs one furious best friend with decent Wi-Fi. If the story had you audibly gasping at your screen, smash that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the most savage, most satisfying revenge story you've ever heard or lived through? I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, real people, real betrayals, real justice, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because trust me, this is far from the last one. I'll see you in the next story.